the Rogue Startups podcast, where two startup founders are sharing lessons learned and pitfalls to avoid in their online businesses. And now, here's Dave and Craig.
All right, welcome to episode 156 of Rogue Startups. I believe Craig has something to say about Gutenberg this week.
Yeah, so I don't hate it, but I don't see the point. I certainly don't see the value of it yet. So Rogue Startups has been on 5.0 for about a week. I wrote our last blog post in Gutenberg, and it's just worse. It's just worse than what we had before. And I'm sure in the future it will be better and there'll be more blocks and functionality. And we're definitely looking at it for Seriously Simple Podcasting. Like, how can we build blocks to make a sort of block type editor better than a regular text-based editor? But I mean, right now it's a odd looking, clunky, everything takes 3 clicks kind of editor. Whereas before everything was very easy. So yeah, I hate to be the old curmudgeon-y kind of guy because I'm not typically that person, but I just don't get it so far. I mean, even things like Beaver Builder or I use the Thrive Builder a lot on the Castos website to build like nice looking pages. It has a lot of shit to it that like makes pages look better. And that's a lot of value, but I just don't get it yet with Gutenberg. I don't know. Am I wrong?
I don't think you are. And, I'll caveat all of this by saying I have done minimal stuff with Gutenberg. I've watched several tutorials. I've read several articles. I've listened to some reviews about it and some people talking about it on podcasts. I even installed it on a test site and played around with it for less than 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But, for all of the stuff that I need support right now, my head is not in the Gutenberg world.
Yeah. And
in fact, the survey I just ran, I was thinking, all right, I'm going to get a definitive answer. Should I be supporting Gutenberg in 2019 with Business Directory plugin and AWPCP or not? So I sent out the survey. Tens of thousands of people were emailed. I got a few hundred responses. Take a guess on the number of those that mentioned the word Gutenberg or blocks.
2.
Bingo. Ding, 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 ding.
Really?
Yes.
My lucky day.
Yes, you win. You win. Seriously. 2 people said, yeah, we need you to support Gutenberg. Out of 200 and some odd that I already have right now, like 260, 275, whatever the response rate is, that's pretty significant. Like 1% are saying, less than 1% are like, yeah, you should do this. I'm like, okay, that's off my list. 2019, not going to happen. So not there. There were so many other things that they said, that were very high on the list, things that I already knew about, but it's good to hear that they're still there and still in their minds, and that's what's still important. I mean, I was concerned that Gutenberg was one of them, but I think in general, most established sites are not looking at Gutenberg seriously. And I think it will be something that takes, this is my prediction. So we're doing 2018 predictions apparently this week on our episode as well. Here's my, or 2019.
I guess.
Here's my prediction for 2019. Gutenberg does not achieve massive traction in the WordPress community yet. I think it's going to be 2020 before people are like, Gutenberg, and by then they're going to have a couple of other releases out to really solidify it and make it more feature rich. So I think it will get more compelling over time, and there's going to be more new users over time that are going to have that experience by default.
Yeah.
You got 28 to 30% of the fucking internet right now that's like, I'm doing it the old way. I don't know what the hell this Gutenberg stuff is, and I really don't need it. Like, the people that are installing my plugin, they're not thinking about this. I mean, they were more concerned about me shutting down Business Directory plugin because of the survey question that I used. How disappointed would you be if we shut down Business Directory plugin? They were all like, oh my God, you're shutting it down. And I'm like, no,
that was not the question. Thank you.
No, we're not doing it. But they were totally freaked out. They were way more freaked out about that than they were about, getting Gutenberg support in.
Yeah.
So I think Gutenberg it's going to be talked about a lot in 2019. But in terms of how much traction it gets in the market, I predict it's fairly low, less
Yeah.
than 10%.
And I have to say, I don't even know. Can you upgrade to 5.0 without Gutenberg being active? They can install like the classical editor plugin, right?
You can install a classic editor. In fact, I've done that on most of my sites where it's like, hey, do you want to try the new Gutenberg experience? I'm like, nope, classic editor, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. I'm done. And I think in 5.0, you are forced to make that decision. With 4.9.8 and 4.9.9, you had a thing that said, hey, please pick one of these. But if you didn't pick anything, you got default.
Right. Because Gutenberg was a plugin back then, right? Yeah.
It was a plugin, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, for me, and just thinking about how I use WordPress, and I think I'm like a kind of middle of the road, relatively like not technical, but advanced. I'm not just like a blogger. When I can build pages and like design websites with something like Gutenberg, then it really has value. When it's like Elementor or Beaver Builder or Thrive Page Builder or whatever, then it's more compelling. When it's just like I have to drag a thing into the page to create a picture, it's just not like that's more work than just clicking the embed image button. Like I don't know. I'm just not quite there yet. But anyways, and to what Dave was alluding to with the questionnaire, Dave and I both took action on our episode from last week about building a product market fit engine and have sent out surveys to our audiences and customers. It's just customers, not audiences, for our businesses. And I think overall, Dave, we're relatively happy with some of the responses we get, and we'll probably go into more detail in a couple of weeks when we have another episode after the first of the year, right?
Yeah. We can talk more about it then. The most amusing takeaway, there we go. A takeaway that I got from my survey was that despite the fact that you send out the thing and you get it, there's always somebody that comes back that tells you to fuck off and die. At least one. I think I had 2 or 3. But, when you send it out to tens of thousands of people, you got to expect that somebody's going to come back and isn't liking it. But, I'm like, hey, great. That's an instant unsubscribe. We're good.
Yep. So saving everybody time and money. Yeah.
Exactly. But yes, we'll talk about the results of this in much more detail after the first of the year. I'm still collecting data on this. It's looking really interesting. I can say that Business Directory plugin seems to have product market fit, which I'm pretty unsurprised about and excited about. It's felt that way for a long time. Now I have some data that says so. I haven't gotten much on the Recapture side because everybody's doing e-commerce stuff right now. They just completely and totally ignore me. So I have follow-up set for January. I don't really expect that anybody's going to pay attention to it until then. So I'm going to badger them way more personally. I don't have tens of thousands of people to email about it there. And I'm specifically doing paid customers. So I'm going to expect a much lower response rate, but I'm still going for it here. So.
Yep. Yeah, no, similarly, we're getting good initial responses about Castos, but definitely not enough responses for statistical significance. But the trend is going in the right direction. And the interesting thing, I think, is that we're already making some product decisions based on what we're seeing there and what our development cycles are going to look like for January already. So it's cool to be able to put some of the early responses that we're getting into just for the direction, not specifically build this exact thing, but it's kind of, hey, this is what we're going to be focusing on in January, and tell the dev team we've gotten this stuff, and I built the word cloud and all this kind of fun stuff. So it's neat to be able to start looking at it in more depth. So, but I think we should definitely have a kind of deep dive into exactly what we're seeing and what it means for our businesses, probably early mid-January.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that word cloud thing. I tried it the way that it was described in the article, just dumping it straight in and having a word cloud come out. It was shit.
Interesting.
Everybody, and the reason it's shit is because everybody's using different terms to describe things. So I realized that I'm going to have to either me or a VA go through all the responses and try to boil it down to a list of things that are topically relevant, so that I can get, if it's about the layout or the look and feel or something, I can get all of that in there and see that as a large word show up, because the way that they're writing it right now, it's just not showing up. And, I'm getting lots of descriptive words that go along with it, like a, and, in, the, all that crap that doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah, we'll deal with that whole debrief on the episode.
Yeah, no, so I think after we both get kind of a complete data set, definitely should have a follow-up episode about kind of our last product market fit engine discussion, because I think now that we have some data and what we're actually doing with it will be pretty interesting. But today, I think, Dave, we've done a 2017 and 2016 review and look forward to 2018. I think we'll probably have a little bit different take on it this week, where we're not going to say like predictions for 2019 and 2018 review, but kind of like what have we learned in 2018 and how does that shape what we're going to be doing going forward in 2019. So I think we both have been active enough to where we've learned a fair amount this year. And it's, I know for me at least, shaping kind of the perspective and the vision I have for what the new year holds, and definitely kind of learning what we've gone through this year is definitely kind of forming what the road is going to look like for us next year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I will get started on a couple of the things that I was focusing on this year and that have, kind of how they shook out, I guess. So the first one really is, relating to Podcast Motor. And my goal there was for it to be a kind of sustained and hands-off business. And at this point, we're making like incremental small improvements on a lot of things with respect to that business because it's pretty mature. But I think I've been pretty successful there. I spend less time working on it. It's grown this year, where I don't think it grew the year before really at all. It grew this year probably 25 or 30%, which is cool. And I'm not working much more than I was on it before, which in a service business is kind of hard. And so that's cool. And I think looking forward to next year, what that means to me is I will continue to try to refine our processes and the types of people we're bringing in, and the types of offerings and the price points that we have, so that I can either feel justified with the time I'm spending in the business because we're charging more money, or the time I'm spending in the business is on things that are like a one-time investment for a repeatable result that I get in the end. So I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on one-off fixes of this and clarifications of that, but like spending time on processes and things that I shouldn't have to touch again in the future. Shouldn't is kind of wishful thinking, but that's the goal, I think. And kind of what I've learned this year is I've done a lot more structure and process and real organizational work in the business this year, and it's paid off. And so I want to do a lot more of that next year to say, like, if I need to address a thing, it's kind of broken and I shouldn't kind of have to be doing this. What can I do to not have to do this again? And it really, the realization I've come to is that if you empower your team with the knowledge and the ability to make decisions, and the process around it, they love you too. Your team doesn't want to come to you with 20 questions every Monday morning. They want to know what the fuck is going on and say, I'm just going to go run my part of the business because you've kind of empowered and enabled them with knowledge and decisions and kind of frameworks about how they can make those decisions. So that's kind of the big picture thing I've learned about Podcast Motor and kind of that part of business this year, and kind of what it means for you next year is do a lot more things one time and set the team up for success.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that one a lot. So for me this year with Recapture, I think one thing that I really struggled with was the whole Shopify channel and customer acquisition. So I had lots of goals around this: deploy to the Shopify App Store, create more Shopify related content, contact Shopify agencies, try to drum up interest in the Shopify app. And for a variety of technical and personal reasons, or but personal, not meaning like I got in the way of it, but like trying to deal with other people, interpersonal reasons, I guess I should say. The channel didn't work out as fast as I wanted it to, and it didn't work out as well in some cases as I wanted it to, and it really didn't start firing until, like 6 months after I finally launched, which was super frustrating. So all of that really taught me that there is definitely a lag in between when you put something together and when you launch it and when people start using it. So the thing that I didn't really put thought or content or time and energy into is how to close that gap even faster. Because the stuff that I put out there about it didn't really close the gap as quickly as I wanted and needed it to. And it almost ended up getting closed somewhat randomly because the Shopify App Store, they rebranded and relaunched. And it happened that I was one of the apps in the new App Store that was there and ready to go. And so as a result, all of the search positions changed. And so, I ended up at the top few results, and that, but it took them like months to launch that. So that was kind of more of an accidental thing as opposed to a purposeful thing. And I've got more integrations on tap for Recapture this coming year, because once we finally started getting that stuff in place, customers were showing up and they were good customers in a lot of cases. There's still, some filtering mechanisms I think I could put in there to make it better, but in order for me to be successful with that in 2019, I'm seeing that I really need to have a better plan on how to make the customers that are in those channels aware of the solution, to make them want to pick up my solution over competitors, because there's plenty of competitors in the space. And just to know that, what that solution is capable of, because I have customers that are still signing up, even though I have lots of content and I have stuff on the site, that they're asking some questions. So, having things like a video tutorial series or something in the onboarding that, walks them through the features in a little more reasonable manner, or something to make customers more successful more quickly, so that those that are the right stores at the right time, they get more engaged, and therefore I keep them as customers. So that's probably one of the key things I think I've learned from the whole Shopify debacle of 2018 there.
Do you still feel like Shopify is the right channel for you to be in, and something that's kind of achievable in terms of getting traction?
Well, I don't know that there's one right channel. So I can't say that it is the right channel, but I think it is still a good channel when I get the right customers. The thing that I've noticed about Shopify is that you get lots and lots of brand new stores that sign up. And guess what? You can't recover in abandoned carts when you have a new store. You can't recover zero. I can recover $0 all day long. But if they're not making sales and they're not, having this deluge of customers that come through their store, I can't help them with that. So, part of it is I'm the wrong tool at the right time. They have this store, they're setting it up, they need abandoned carts, but they don't need abandoned carts as much as they need other stuff right then. They need to be able to bring traffic to their store. So they need paid advertising, or they need content, or they need to tap into some external channel that gets them that stream of people coming through the stores, and then I can help them. When I get people that are at that stage, I'm doing really well with that. Like, we signed up some great new Shopify stores this year. All of our expansion this year was largely in Shopify. So it was a good channel, but it was not the right channel, because I'm still getting the wrong kind of customers for that through that channel. So, I think there are other ways. Like, something else I learned in 2018 is that agencies, if you're trying to partner with an agency, that is such a long play. Yeah. Like, you cannot just walk in, talk to an agency, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to recommend your solution. That was unbelievably naive of me 12 months ago to think that I could get there with that. And I've never done that before, but I should have had some kind of an idea as a consultant that wasn't really something that could be successful, if only because, if I talked to a technology partner and they came to me and said, hey Dave, we'd really like to work with you on the next consulting project you're on, I'm like, who are you and why do I trust you? Why are you that interesting? Nobody's talking about you. Why should I take a chance on your stuff? And it's the same thing with the agencies, that the reactions I got this year, yeah, you're cool and all, and you don't seem to be too much of a psycho, but why should I trust you over the competitors that I hear all about all the time? And, I can throw out my reasons. I can talk about the comparison sheets and show them the tables with all the green check marks in my column and the lack of them in the other columns. It's not enough to quite get them there. So I've had to rethink that approach, because that is something that you can build over time, but it's not something that happens like in a 1, 2, 3, even 6-month period, in my opinion. Because I've been trying to follow up with those agencies since June, and I had zero traction with any of them at this point. And that was like 13 different agencies I was trying to contact.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it when we talked about this like a month ago or whatever. That sounds like enterprise sales to me, which can be huge and wonderful if you get it. But yeah, it's totally the long game. But, and I think, kind of what we talked about before, it's definitely a good avenue for you, because if you get it, it's going to mean a huge shift in the velocity of the business, but not something you can count on for the kind of early quick wins. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that even competitors in my space are doing that. And one of them was very candid about it, said, hey, we've had really great success partnering with the agency. But they've also been around since 2011.
Yeah.
So,
right.
After you've been around in the market for 4 years and everybody's heard of you and they see this and they've watched your solution in certain areas and you've had webinars and this and that, they're like, yeah, I feel some confidence in that. And, Recapture is still kind of a new kid on the block. So,
yeah,
in some regards.
So it's funny looking back at my goals from last year. I'm not even going to talk about most of them, I think, because they're just like, I hate to say this, Dave, because we talked about SMART goals. Maybe 2 years ago, we talked about SMART goals. And I'm almost the opposite now of like, I have more meta things that I want to focus on. I mean, I could say like a number for what I want to get Castos revenue or Sales Camp revenue to, but just saying that is not really specific in that it's not going to tell how we're going to get there. For me, at least, is like, if I say I want to get Sales Camp revenue to 5,000 MRR, we're definitely not there. That's just like a very abstract thing to say. So I've kind of broken my other few points out into things I think if I get good at them, will lead to success across all my businesses. And the first one is like, I hear a lot of what I consider really good marketers talk about like understanding their data and quantitative marketing and data-driven marketing decisions and split testing and all this kind of shit. And I don't do any of it. And it's terrible. Like, I should be the marketer. If I'm not a developer, I have to be a marketer. I hate to say I don't understand any of it. I certainly don't understand how to set any of it up. And so that's really like my big goal of the year is like putting really comprehensive like Google Analytics into place and understanding where my customers are coming from and learning how to do more of the things that are working and less of the things that aren't, and starting to run split tests and A/B tests on pages and things like that to really start nailing some of these things. Because I think if you can understand that, then you can make any business successful. And I have a couple of businesses I want to make successful. And so I think it's like the meta thing that I want to learn and really get good at next year. Because I think that once you get like a product that has product market fit, talking about our survey a little bit. So Castos has product market fit. Podcast Motor has product market fit. How can I just do more and get more eyeballs on this in a really cost-effective way? So the thing I've learned about marketing in the last few years is you can spend a ton of money and get some result, but you don't know that that's like the most efficient way to get those customers or get those eyeballs. And so how to keep focusing my energy and my resources in the most like cost-effective way possible is kind of like the big picture goal for me, for all of my businesses for next year. Because just more money in the door makes everything else a lot easier, So that's kind of like the big picture of what I'm focusing on next year.
Big fat MRR forgives a lot of sins. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I see on the list of things here that you're talking about. So when you talk about getting better at qualitative marketing, I don't think you're talking about things like learning how to A/B test and all of the basic content here. I mean, can you dig into that a little bit more? Like what what does that mean for you in terms of like specific tactics that you're going to embrace in this coming year? Because that's very much a strategy. What are the tactics that are going to get you there?
I hate to say I don't know, but I don't think I even know. I don't think I even know. I mean, I think like we installed Wootrick on Castos this past week. And I mean, honestly, we've had Heap installed on Sales Camp since day one. And I have literally no idea what to do with all of that data. You know, I should be looking at it and saying, like, what's the customer journey? Where do they come from? What types of sites? What are they doing when they're on the page? Looking at like heat mapping and all this kind of stuff. And like, I don't know. I hate to say I don't know what to do with any of it, but I don't. And I think if you do know what to do with it and you have any amount of like decent traffic, then you can say, okay, like the customers that came to the page for the site for the first time and signed up for a trial came from here and they did this. And so we just need to make that better. And we need to get rid of everything else. And it goes to like the number of pages you have too. And the entry points to your site is like, do you have a bunch of people coming to your site that aren't ever going to buy your shit? And like, is that good? I don't know. Like, I think I'm kind of thinking about some things like that, of like, how are people and why are they coming to our site? And how can we create the flow of like new visitor to trial to, or, you know, schedule a consult call for Podcast Motor. Because I just don't have any idea how any of that stuff happens right now, and understanding that and then building like a better version of it across the businesses is the big picture. And I don't have specifics.
Yeah. So it sounds like you might want to embrace like some sort of a key KPI or some sort of North Star metric that you just haven't figured out what it is yet. And maybe it's you track a handful of North Star metrics and then decide which of those North Star metrics is the one that's actually driving business and not just a vanity metric. Didn't know this was going to be an interview today, did you? No,
for sure. I mean, it's good. It's good. It's really helpful to think through this stuff. I mean, if I look at our SAS metrics, you know, for Castos, a lot of them are good. And definitely the one that sucks is like unique visitor to the site to new trial is really, really bad. And I know that it's like 1%. And it should be like 3% or 5%. And so, yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I'm thinking about is like, how does the site funnel and encourage people to sign up for a free trial? That's just an example, but you know, it's like whack-a-mole. Once I get that one, then the next one that sucks is, you know, over there, and I got to go attack it. And I got to understand conceptually, like, what's the data? What's it telling me? And how do I go try to fix it? You know, is it more eyeballs or better UI or better calls to action and copywriting and paid advertising, all this kind of shit that like I just don't even know. And I think I don't know. I hope I'm not alone. I think a lot of people look at like quote marketing and say, I have no fucking idea where to start, you know?
Well, it is pretty intimidating. I mean, there's so much shit that you could actually embrace.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think one of the reasons I haven't gone and done any extensive A/B testing on my own stuff is there's a hassle factor to get it set up. Then there's what constitutes a meaningful test here? You know, I'm obviously not just testing button colors and micro copy changes. I mean, some people are into that and some people are successful with that. But I feel like I would want to go a little bit bigger. And so then it's a question of, all right, well, what am I thinking of as the alternate to what I have now? And I overthink that sort of stuff. So that sort of, by the time I get to that point, I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to leave it because I've got other things I need to work on. And that is why it doesn't become a priority for me, because I'm trying to stay focused on other stuff. So I think, you know, if you're going to make A/B testing a priority, you got to sit down and decide, all right, I'm going to try crazy variation A with crazy variation B and have a baseline of this other thing over here and see which one resonates. And maybe that's stuff that you come out of with your customer survey to figure out what would be a better A or B in that case. You know, I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I think
but it's not even, you know, like I think we understand a lot of like new trial conversion rates, but it's the step before that. It's like going from they have no idea what Castos is to on the page to signing up for a trial. Those like 3 steps. Right. We're like top of the funnel kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at my own onboarding and what was working well with Magento. I don't know it's working as well with Shopify. And I went through and tried to make it Shopify specific this year. But I mean, that was months ago. And now I have more data that says all these people are dropping out and they're dropping out fast.
Yeah.
So the question is, why are they dropping out fast? And I've been sending out crazy emails trying to figure out, hey, why'd you uninstall Recapture? And I'm not getting any feedback back, which is super frustrating. So
different customers, different problems and needs. And I mean, I can imagine the little I know about e-commerce, Magento and Shopify are polar opposite types of people that sign up for them, right? So you should be talking to them differently.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have different stores at different places. And I'm making wild assumptions about these customers based on the very little data that I have on them, because I can find out like how much is their store making, how many carts were coming through there. And a lot of them have zeros. So I'm like, oh, new store. So maybe it's a new store, maybe it's not, maybe it could be like, for example, here's a scenario where I've seen this on Magento, and I'm pretty sure you can do this in Shopify too. They set up a development store. They're doing a bunch of tests. They're trying to figure out what apps are going to work for them. They run some test data through. That test data is very low volume and it's very low cost, meaning that the products that they're putting through are super cheap, not necessarily their real products. And the end result is it looks like they're kind of a meh store. But then what they're really doing is verifying that that this is all going to work well with their real store. And then they bring it up to the real store, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, that's $57,000 a month. And that's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
So you do know that it's likely to be this one thing, Occam's razor, right? But on the other hand, there could be people that are just trying it out, and you don't really know if that's a development thing and they didn't like your product because you were missing some key feature, or it wasn't easy to use, or they got confused. And that's the one thing I really hate about the Shopify setup here, is that for me to do those test installs or whatever, it's a little bit of a pain in the neck for me to do it from my side. And I also know the app really well at this point, so I'm just going to jump over stuff. But I probably need to hire somebody that knows a little bit about Shopify that can test this out and give me some honest feedback, because I got some early on, but I haven't gotten much since. So, there's probably some reasons why people are getting dropped in there. And I could really take advantage of that in 2019 by improving onboarding, giving better resources, video tutorials at the right times, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Same thing that you could do with Castos.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, I'm looking back at my old goals for 2018 here. And, some of the stuff just got dropped off to the side for prioritization reasons. Like after the Shopify integration went out, I had some things on here to do freemium support and an e-commerce podcast, and what else did I have on here? More content around Shopify and different kinds of paid advertising that I didn't end up doing at all. When the integration sort of went sideways and I wasn't getting the customer acquisition that I had hoped out of it, and I sat down and had a very long heart-to-heart with Jordan of CartHook, it made me realize that there was probably an opportunity that I had left on the table. So I'm looking back at these goals going, well, those goals were interesting probably in December of 2018, or 17, excuse me. But by June of 2018, they became somewhat irrelevant, because in trying to retool to be relevant to customers in a way that I had just discovered, it no longer made sense to pursue those things. Like a freemium strategy for Recapture right now is the wrong thing to do, given that I need to get more MRR. Eventually that might grow. If I were to do freemium, I would have tons of free customers right now that would be unlikely to grow into paying customers because they're just such low volume stores. It would have been a worthless proposition, and it would just I would have died in support. So yeah.
How much support do you get right now?
It's pretty minimal, actually. Being used to the plugins, it's like it kind of depends on week to week, but let's say 2 to 3 chats or emails a week.
A week. Oh, okay. I will challenge you a little bit here. I would try opening the floodgates. Make it freemium. Make it $1 a month or whatever for a really low amount of recovered revenue or something, and see what happens. Because like, say you get all these beginner stores in, and then they grow, they're going to stay with you. You know, like if you can get them on early for relatively low amount of like effort, then it's kind of like a customer acquisition cost. Like if you have a little more support up front to get a customer early on in their journey, but they're going to stay with you forever, that's actually a really good deal. If you're getting 3 chats a week and a handful of emails or something, I don't know. I would look at doing something to opening that up more towards the freemium model. I mean, because we get 30 messages a day with Castos.
Yeah, I should be a little more careful. So we actually do have a free plan right now. That free plan gives you up to $500 in recovered revenue. Those stores that are on the free plan are not converting into paid customers.
Okay.
They simply aren't getting enough, or it takes them months to get to it. And I think, and again, I don't have data to back this up, but I'm looking at my competitors in the Shopify App Store where their bottom tier above free is at the 20 level or the 30 level, and mine's at the 50 level. So it's big. That's a big jump. That's a big jump for a lot of Shopify stores. So one thing that I wanted to introduce in 2019 was actually change my pricing plans to make it more value-based instead of the usage-based. And I had toyed around with that in 2018, but it never ended up getting there because I wanted to get some additional features for customer lifetime value to really drive that.
Yeah.
And then I toyed with a variety of different ways. And now, after really thinking about it, looking at a lot of competition and just seeing how customers are using the product, I think the right usage metric isn't dollars recovered in carts. It's just straight up orders that they're running through their store. It's something that they very much understand. They can look it up very quickly. They don't have to think about, like some of my competitors have like monthly engaged customers. And I'm like, how the hell does somebody figure that out?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how would you look at that and ever gauge? Well, I have like 25% of my customers engaged. And, do I judge that on orders, or do I judge that on customers? Or, there's all kinds of different ways that people seem to do it. And I'm still not sure that it's 100% the best, but from a customer understanding standpoint, it seems like there's 2 that are pretty straightforward. You just straight up customers or straight up orders. Those are numbers that they can look up and understand. And anything else like dollars recovered, that gets people into the whole, I don't really feel like that order you recovered over here. It says you did, but I actually ended up emailing them, blah, blah, blah. You get into those kind of arguments with customers. And I've had those discussions with people. And I'm like, well, look, this is a wide tier and you pay this, and it's just about emails sent right now. It's not even about dollars recovered. And once I point that out, they're usually, oh, okay, all right, it's all right, fine. But that dollars recovered definitely puts them into kind of a defensive posture. I know that I've had similar feelings about other tools when they say, oh, we've recovered this for you, and they didn't. And I was the one that actually went out and did it. And then they claimed credit for it. It's like, well, that creates resentment. So pricing is something that I'm going to look at changing in 2019, probably early on. I've got some integrations on deck that we're looking to add. And in order for me to support those integrations, I really need a different, better pricing model. And so it's got to happen at the same time. And I think that's
I think it's very savvy. It's not just price, but it's the price metric. So not just whatever, charge more. Everyone wants to fucking charge more, but charge in a currency that your customers understand better.
Yeah, like I want it to be a metric that measures their success against the value that we're providing for them. The more successful they are, the more value they're getting out of us, the more they should pay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty straightforward thing to understand.
Yeah. So my last one here is kind of related to understanding quantitative marketing better and customer journeys and data and all that kind of stuff around marketing. And it's to really get good, quote, that's really specific, at content marketing. So we've been running content on Castos for 3 or 4 months now. And I feel like it's doing an okay job, but, and these two goals are kind of, they are definitely directly linked, is the content I'm putting out bringing people in that are becoming customers? And that's a tough question to answer, I know, but I need to get a lot closer to being able to answer it, because right now the answer is I have no fucking idea. I have no clue the value of the money and time and effort that I'm spending on content. I mean, we have a writer, and I'm totally hands off at this point because he's a really good writer, but are we writing about the right things for the customer that we want to bring in at the right point in their kind of customer journey? And then what are we doing from there to lead them on to becoming a customer and nurture them in email and stuff like that? And it's just like this whole, I guess these two are kind of the different versions of the same goal, is to understand the whole arc of a customer into my businesses and do better at it. And it really is pretty top of funnel stuff. I mean, I think Podcast Motor and Castos and even Sales Camp, I mean, it's a very young business and we don't have a great degree of product market fit and stuff, but I think it's just because we don't have enough eyeballs in there. You know, I think the people that come in are actually converting at a decent rate. The number of new people in is just so low that it seems like shit. But I think just how can you do marketing like some of the people we really look up to? Like, how can we run a blog like Ahrefs, you know, that is really, really, really great, or CoSchedule? I think it's within reach, but it's like, how can you create content like that to really, really open up the top of the funnel so that you can run things like split tests because you have enough people coming in every day to get statistical significance out of those split tests. So that's the other part of my kind of meta goal, I guess.
I think that's a hard thing about content marketing, that if you want to start doing testing or determining what content is really resonating, if you're starting from scratch and you're just getting a handful of views every month, so you're talking like 1,000 total views on your entire blog a month, it's really hard to understand what is resonating and what is not.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it really is.
Even the slightest bit of interest change, it could just be that it got shared a little bit more. It could be that it's reached a few more people, but you could misinterpret that as, oh, well, this has resonated more. And that may not be the case. It just could be something totally anomalous. And, you know, I still struggled with that on Business Directory. I thought I had some ideas about what content was better, and I tried to make that part of the best of, and it just sort of got a meh response.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, you look at, I think look at like the businesses that we idolize, and a lot of them now go look back at their success and say, we did it with really good content. And I mean, it's really hard. It's harder. It's getting harder every day. But I think if you want to look at like a sustainable way to grow a business, Facebook ads are not going to get cheaper. Writing good content is not going to get cheaper either, but it's evergreen. And you can spend even if you spent $500 for a really good blog post, that could be worth it in the long run, you know, but $500 on Facebook ads may only get you whatever, a couple of customers, but $500 on blog posts could, in the life of that blog post, get you 100 customers or something. But it's a matter of, you know, the right blog post to the right people at the right point in their customer journey, and, you know, having the right calls to action and email nurturing and all this kind of stuff that just makes content marketing really difficult and intimidating for a lot of people, including me. But I think if you can understand all of it and get all of those points right, it really, I think, is still a really, really high quality marketing channel. Yeah.
But, you know, we should probably have a whole episode on this in 2019 about content marketing and why it's gotten so difficult these days, because there's a saturation out there that wasn't there 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does that mean now, right?
Right. It means that the bar is that much higher. So if you want to create the quote great article, it's no longer 2,000 words. That's table stakes, you know? It's no longer having an infographic. That's table stakes. Like, these are the expected things now. So what do you do to go above and beyond that to really make it shareable? And is it something that people are like, oh, yeah, that's amazing? I mean, I want to see more of that because I've never seen that before. In 2013, we had never seen a lot of this stuff before, or it was just really shitty information. Now we have some pretty reasonable information out there, and it's hard to make it that much better. The bar has gotten that much higher. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's something worth exploring in 2019 for sure. But
I have a theory about content marketing these days. Content marketing is SEO now. Content marketing is just how many places in Google can you rank, and to get just new people into your business. It's not like, oh, they read this blog post and they're going to find you and then sign up for your service, but it's just how many places can you show up in the search rankings. Not like, can you write a great article to help people? It's like, can you show up for all of these high intent search terms?
Yeah, that's some expensive SEO, let me tell you.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it definitely is. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to stop at this point. We certainly have a busy 2019 ahead of us, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we definitely have a lot of hairy, audacious goals ahead of us, right?
Oh, yeah. And a shout out to all of our listeners from 2018. I just want to say how much we really appreciate you tuning in to our show. All the comments and the feedback that we've received this year has been really awesome. We hope to provide you with equally value, if not more valuable stuff in 2019 to help hear from you even more. And just want to say thank you so much for being part of the journey. It's been a lot of fun, and we certainly couldn't do it without all of you. And we wish everybody here a very happy new year and a great holiday season. This will be our last episode for 2018. Is that correct, Craig?
That is right. Yep.
That is right. All right. So we will see you all in 2019. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, our one ask is that you share it with somebody that you think would really benefit from it. And we hope to see you in 2019.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Rogue Startups. If you haven't already, head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the show. For show notes from each episode and a few extra resources to help you along your journey, head over to roguestartups.com to learn more.